A very good evening to you. You're watching NEWSLINE Prime on TV1. Now, corruption has been a topic that everyone, all media institutions in the country, politicians alike, have been talking about for the past 4 years. And especially, President Maithripala Sirisena has been mentioning about corruption and putting an end to corruption on several platforms, on several occasions. Who are we going to talk to you today with regard to this rampant corruption, as some would call it, in the country? We are going to talk to Attorney at Law Shiral Lakthilaka, advisor to President Maithripala Sirisena, who is in fact cancelling a program to be here with us today. Thank you very much, sir, first and foremost, for being here with us amidst your busy schedule. Now, Mr. Lakthilaka, let's get to the point straight away. You also have been a person, along with several others, who have been actively speaking about corruption in the past. Thereafter, you took office as an advisor to President Maithripala Sirisena, and now, 4 years after President Maithripala Sirisena has come into power, there are still people talking about corruption. We do not want to specifically talk about a certain party or anyone at this moment, but let's talk about corruption as a whole. President himself has spoken about putting an end to corruption on several occasions. He has actually taken several strong steps as well. In your opinion, as an advisor to the President, how do you see the level of corruption in the country? Is there a situation where there is a grip on this, or is it at loose still?
No, right now there is no grip on it. It's continuing. That's why we consider it as a social menace. Not only a legal violation, it's a social menace also. Because if you want to understand the magnitude of this whole action or whatever the process, it is stated by researchers 10% of our GDP is draining out as corruption. Now, what is the, if you understand the level of corruption, the 2017 our GDP is like 90 billion US dollars.
Right.
So, if 10% is counted according to 90 billion, so the 9 billion US dollars is taken over through corrupt actions. So therefore, it's very important to understand the magnitude of this. So therefore, you need a stern action, consistent policy. But unfortunately, other than several commission reports, we have not been able to tackle this problem. So you need to do something every hour, every minute, to curtail and discourage this social and cultural practice. So therefore, there is a need to concentrate on this.
Mr. Lakthilaka, now what has happened in the recent past, if I may put it that way, especially on the 26th of October, we saw the President coming forward and saying, no, we don't want to continue this coalition between the two parties. We are going to call this off. One main reason, apart from several others, the President raised was the fact that there was corruption. And now again we see another new presidential commission has been appointed. First we saw the Bond Commission, then there is Sri Lankan and Lanka Investigation Commission as well. And now we see a commission to investigate irregularities from 2015 onwards. Several strong steps taken by the President to actually take hold of this situation and arrest the situation. But yet we see people within the government themselves who have been talking against corruption when they were in the opposition, very strong key individuals in the government, just letting loose and going with the flow in terms of the corrupt activities that are ongoing. Now, you have been a person, as I mentioned earlier, who came to this position where you are right now after speaking about corruption and after playing an active role. Now, what do you feel like when you see this? Now you're a part of the government itself. You're part of the President's moving forward, the President's actions. As a person who is in that position, how do you feel?
No, it's like this. Now, as a person who has talked against corruption from 2010, we are adopting very consistent policy on this. Sri Lanka needs to eradicate corruption by at least by 2030. So that was our policy, and even after 2015 we insisted that we should adopt stringent laws. There are 3 ways you have to tackle this. One is expose the corruption, then introduce new laws, and change the attitude. All these three are, if you look at Hong Kong or the Singaporean context, all these three aspects were considered when you are talking about anti-corruption drive. But unfortunately in Sri Lanka, as you correctly stated, we have appointed commissions and exposed the whatever the malfunctioning of the whatever the policies and the structures. But unfortunately, so far we have not been able to introduce a stringent law, something like Singapore or Hong Kong. Our law, which is now under the Bribery or Corruption Commission Act, which is 30 years old, it was introduced in 1994. The section 70, which defined the corruption, is not sufficient to tackle the nowadays craftiness or the breadth of the issue.
Yes,
so therefore you need laws. So either you have to amend the existing law or you have to introduce new law. When this government came, I myself and a group of people, through Mr. Champika Ranawaka, we introduced a cabinet paper, but it was rejected. It was not considered as an appropriate law. Then even now we are working with a group of people to emulate, by emulating the Singaporean law, to draft a new futuristic, not to deal with the past, to stop corruption in the future. So we are working consistently, we are thinking how to do that, because it's a social menace. Thirdly, attitude. Now, I was in the government for last 4 years. I don't think that anybody can put finger on me and say you are corrupt. So you have to develop your attitude to overcome from this problem. The problem, as you questioned at the beginning, the people who are preaching against corruption are not sticking to that. That is the problem. So this is an attitudinal challenge also. You need laws, you need information, and also as a person, you have to do away with this. Without that, you can't have a something called anti-corruption drive.
Well, you bring us to an interesting point, Mr. Lakthilaka. Now, we spoke about bringing in new laws. Now we see certain cases inside Parliament when laws need to be brought in. We see some laws being actually expedited in terms of the process. Some very important matters like the Bond Commission report, taking those facts and making them a law. Matters like that are still, according to what we've reported, is still with the Speaker and they have not moved forward. So why do you see this double standard? Maybe because of this attitudinal change that you're talking about?
It's a cultural attitude as well as political attitude. I mean, so we have not shown as political society or politicians that we are free from corruption. Now everybody has something to say on corruption. So unfortunately, you have to avoid this politicization of the corruption issue. Now, 2015, some people who, I mean, when we came into power, we wanted to punish the past politicians, not because of they have done anything wrong against law, but because they were our political opponents. Similarly, now if somebody is thinking in future also to punish somebody or victimize somebody to take a political advantage, it will not help to resolve this corruption related issues. So we have to depoliticize it. But unfortunately, anti-corruption agenda is, infected with this politicization. You have to remove it. Even I heard recently when President yesterday proclaimed this gazette to establish a new commission, a lot of people are thinking this is another way to victimize UNP. That is not the case. This is a commission to see how far we have accommodated the principle of accountability, which is an original pledge by the president. So the president has gone into the past, he has appointed the commission, so what went wrong, then appointed another commission to deal with the central bank scam, then Lanka issue, now about what if there is a fraud, if there is a corruption, if there is a mismanagement, if there is a misappropriation funds of property, anybody can inform this. So this will ensure the transparency of the governance. But if somebody try to paint a picture that this is to deal with or victimize or take a revenge against another political party or political person or political force, that is not the way we have to construe this whole effort.
Mr. Lakthilaka, again, let's focus a bit on this presidential commissions as well. Now, we saw the Bond Commission actually compiling the report, and that has been sent to the president, and we are yet to find out what is going to happen to that. Now, the Sri Lankan Airlines Commission, which is now currently ongoing, one could raise a point as to say that the Sri Lankan Airlines Commission is actually looking into the minute issues pertaining to the Sri Lankan Airlines and Mihin Lanka and Sri Lankan catering, rather than looking at the bigger picture or the actual incidents where what has happened. Now, while one can say that, is there a review process by the president or the president's office or the presidential secretariat as to what is going on in terms of the investigations in these commissions, or are they functioning independently?
Yeah, I mean, commissions are happening independently. President has nothing to do. Once he appoints a commission, he cannot barge into those commission proceedings and say you have to do this and that. So this is a completely independent process. That is the first point. Second point is, we are considering the impact of these commission reports. That's why President has several times, even you may have heard that in his speeches, he has, now we have understood the restriction of using the commission evidence for investigation or the litigation process.
Yes.
So as a result, this was referred by the President through the Bribery and Corruption Commission. They have put forward an amendment to the Act in order to utilize these pieces of evidence for filing. Instead of going once again through investigation, use those piece of evidence to file cases.
Definitely.
But you know what happened to that piece of legislature at the parliament. This was mentioned. So there are so many hurdles when you are dealing with this anti-corruption drive. That's why I said there are three aspects. The attitudinal aspect is very serious. If the government or if an individual official is not taken serious of this issue, then the whole process will collapse.
Mr. Lakthilaka, let's see the counter argument of that point. That is to, as you mentioned, one could raise the point, raise the finger at the president and say this commission has been appointed to victimize a certain party. For this example, let's say the United National Party. But one could also say that the president has appointed this commission at this particular juncture of time, looking at a future presidential election, to take this result and actually say the United National Party, I have this with me, something that was similar to something that was done by the former president when he said, I have the files with me. What do you think of that?
No, I categorically deny that kind of political expediency. I mean, this is what happened in 2015 also. If you try to mix up this with political advantage, the original expectation are not going to happen, right? This is what happened in the past. So we are very concerned about, as I mentioned at the beginning, look at the impact of this whole issue of corruption. It takes away, it robs $9 billion per year. Actually, it would be much more than that. It would be much more than that. This is a very conservative analysis, right? So, whether it is done by SLF peer or UN peer or JV peer or TNA supporter, it is a corrupt matter. It's detrimental for our well-being of our country.
Definitely.
So if you try to cover up these things under political scene, so that's not good for our country. So I know there are several statements issued by even the past, even on bond scam, this was done to level criticism against certain party or politician. That is not the case. That is not the case. In 2015, President gave a pledge that he will ensure to establish a corrupt-free society. So then what do you have to do? If somebody is doing a corrupt or continuing corrupt practice, do you expect President to look away and allow him to do that? So it's not good, no.
Absolutely. According to your, let's come to the point here. According to your conscience, a person who has been speaking actively against corruption, I mentioned this quite a few times because it is important to this discussion, and a person who has actually been a person who spoke about what you believed for, then asked to leave the party that you were working for at that time. Are you happy with the actions that has been taken by the President, you as a member of the staff of the President, with regard to ending corruption in the country as of right now?
No, I'm not happy because it is not a fulfilled task. Because as I told you, we need a new law. We are still struggling to develop a new set of laws to replace the existing, at least Section 70 of the Bribery and Corruption Act, which give the definition. Because you know, look at the current day situation. These rent seekers are not only coming from public sector. There are always three personalities are involved in one corruption. The one is public official, then the politician, and the private sector guy. So always this. But our Section 70 is talking only about public official. So
that was brought up in this bond scam as well.
So therefore you have to change it. By anyhow, if you are looking to at least to curb or introduce some kind of deterrence, you have to change this existing law. I don't know why the responsible ministers are not concerned about this. So therefore I have to say, first, we are not satisfied. But only good thing is we have exposed past as well as existing corruption level. So then people knows what kind of society they are living. But that does not mean we are going to eradicate corruption.
Yeah. Mr. Lakthilaka, another point that is constantly made by the people, if you just talk to any normal individual, a common man, is that, okay, what happened in the past happened. These people have robbed more than what the other people have robbed. You just mentioned the balance of corruption in the country. Now my question to you is different. Again, you are a part of the government, you are working for His Excellency President Maithripala Sirisena, and now do you think this government is more corrupt than the previous government, or can you point the finger and say, no, that government is actually more corrupt?
No, I can't say. I mean, it's a very relative term. You know, case by case you have to understand it. There may be unheard corrupt practice which is much bigger than bond scam or else. You know, that's why I said the magnitude is minimum level is $9 billion per year. But this has happened since 1948. So therefore you can't finger at one politician and say your regime is corrupt. All regimes are corrupt. All regimes are corrupt. So that's why this has become a national menace. So therefore don't give a color to this. If you put blame for one party and try to rescue another party, we can't eradicate corruption. We have to blame all corrupt people, irrespective of their policy. There are educated people. Now, if you look at the corruption level in Sri Lanka, the most corrupt people are educated people. Degree holders. I'm not going to explain how it happens. But if you look at the several very top level educated people involved in certain sectors, they are most corrupt. Now, popular belief is police, the justice system is corrupt, but if you look at the construction field, if you look at the other areas, not the poor,
but the rich and the educated.
Rich and educated are robbing our economy.
Mr. Lakthilaka is quoting research data and saying that $9 billion is lost annually as a result of corruption, and here we see our government struggling to pay off $1 billion loan that has matured this year. We will come to that as well.
One moment, I want to tell that statistics I am importing from Dr. Indratis's report, which he has done in 2009.
Absolutely. So Mr. Lakthilaka also has the ability to say where that information is from. We are going to put an end to talking about corruption at the moment, and we are going to talk to you about governance. But before that, as my producer says, we have to go in for a short commercial break. We will be right back. Welcome back to the show. You are watching Newsline Prime. We are in discussion with Attorney at Law Shiral Lakthilaka, advisor to President Maithripala Sirisena. Just before the break, we spoke about corruption. Now we want to talk to Mr. Lakthilaka about the governance in the country and what we can look forward to in terms of the next few months, next few years. We do not know. Mr. Lakthilaka, what is the plan of the President? If I can ask you that, in terms of what you are able to reveal to the general public, what is going to happen? Provincial council elections are to be held according to the President. We do not know that out in the open as there are no confirmed reports. Then some people say there will be a presidential election. The people are not aware as to what is happening. The cost of living has been burdening the people. So a lot of problems. One end, the Sena caterpillar or the fall army worm is destroying the agricultural sector. So a lot of problems in the country. And here in this tiny town of Colombo, we worry about provincial council election, a constitution, and if it is that, a presidential election. So what is going to be the plan according to what you can reveal to the general public?
To my belief and my understanding, what is needed is a new mandate, because now we are stale. So in order to get a new mandate, it's better if you go for a provincial council elections, because that is in representative democracy, this always it's better time to time check the pulse of the people. So this provincial council election would give us some kind of indication how people thinks about the government. So that is first point. Second point is democratically. Now we have seen in last several months, on certain issues, some people are talking about democracy for their own advantage. But when it comes to other things, they keep quiet. This is not good. If we are for democracy, all aspects which violates democratic norms has to be shouted.
Definitely.
So you can't postpone provincial council elections indefinitely. It's not good. So therefore, it's healthy for our democracy to have a provincial council elections immediately, forthwith. Secondly, on presidential, now after the Supreme Court decision, we know that the general election won't happen before 2020 April, right? Or February to April. Then, according to the 7th Amendment to the Constitution, now President can anytime call for a presidential election if he is coming forward as the candidate, right? So I don't see there is a need for going for such a snap presidential election. So therefore, we may have a time for a presidential election after this year November, after completing the 5 years term. So that is the election plan. I mean, you can't move away from that. So therefore, it's always good to have a provincial council election before April, let's say March, Because
as soon as possible.
As soon as possible, but you have to do certain tinkering at the parliament, like either you have to go back to the old system or you have to move forward with the new system.
With regard to this judicial action, you also mentioned this at one point. If I may ask you this question in this way, do you feel that people, when it comes to their own advantage, take the case or the matter up to the judicial process, and because of the judicial process, that action or the intended result is not achieved? When it comes to this provincial council elections also, there are taunts being made that this matter has to be taken at the Supreme Court because there is a delay. Then once again there is a chance that the election might be delayed altogether. So when it comes to this, the three arms of the democracy operating.
No, that's healthy, no? That's healthy. People, it's always good if citizens go to courts to challenge executive we can't challenge legislative actions, but executive action, it's healthy for democracy. So if citizens, our concern is why citizens have not gone to courts, gone into courts to challenge this delay. Now this is an inordinate delay which is happening for last 18 months. So you can't manipulate. My experience is it's like a seesaw. If you try to manipulate from one point, other point, it will explode. So therefore, we politicians must also understand there is nothing called manipulation. If you try to manipulate democracy, it will explode.
Is that what has happened now?
We have seen from 1977. We have seen this.
If I am to ask you this direct question, if one is to say that the national government of President Maithripala Sirisena and the United National Party has not worked out, what do you think?
No, that is because there was no plan for that. At the beginning, I have written on this to papers also.
Yes.
Now, if you take the French model, when the Prime Minister and the President coming from two different parties, there is a power sharing agreement, right? So power sharing means what are the areas where President can dictate terms, and what are the areas where Prime Minister and the government. There was no such a thing. Everything was overlapped. Then the Prime Minister excluded the President over certain policy issues which annoyed him. Then he was not considered as the country's president, which he embarrassed him. Then the political expediency of both parties, which led for this unfortunate acrimony. So this is what happened. So it is a structural issue, because we at the beginning never thought how to bring two parties together in a coexisting governance.
Once the reappointments were made, do you think the structural issues have been rectified, or do you think this will continue?
What do you mean by
reappointment of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe after the October 26th?
No, it's two governments. Now what we have is not a national government. It's a UNP government, where President is only sitting as the head of the cabinet.
So there is no need to go back to what was prevailing before the 26th of October.
Yeah, but still the certain lacunas connected with 19th Amendment will create problems. Because if you give a deep analysis to 19th Amendment, it is a conflict-prone document. It is not a document which brings you coexistence. Every section is contradictory to the other. So it will lead to conflicts or disagreements.
Final question, because we are running out of time, is this new constitution draft, the expert committee report that has been tabled in Parliament. A lot of people are coming forward, even the Anunayaka Theras have come forward and said what is required is an election, a provincial council election, and not a new constitution altogether. Your view on this? Do we need a constitution at this juncture, or do we need something else?
On different footing, I think this is not the appropriate time to introduce this constitution. Sri Lanka needs a new constitution, there is no argument. But without consulting the people, without consulting the society, you can't do this. It is against the concept called constitutionalism. Constitutionalism talks about 4 aspects. You have to have a consensus on constitutional vision, then you have to consensus on what you call structure, the process and the attitudes. Then political society must agree on that. Then there should be agreement between political society and the citizens. None of these criteria was fulfilled by this. So it will explode. It is not good. It will bring more chaos than good.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lakthilaka, for joining us. As I mentioned earlier when we started, Mr. Lakthilaka is being here with us amidst his busy schedule. As time is running out, let me quickly thank Mr. Lakthilaka once again for being here with us, and remind you that we will be joining you next week as well, Monday morning, with an interesting guest to talk to you about the current developments in the country. I've been Chathuranga. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.